Hi everyone, it's Plastic EP here from Melbourne, Australia. I've got a very special guest, David Salidor from New York. How are you today, David?
I'm very well, Plastic. Nice to be here with you.
Isn't it fantastic what's happening in the world and digital and
I thought you were talking about the white elephant, but yes, digital communication is fantastic. Fantastic.
here I am in Australia and you're there in New York. You haven't got a New York accent, have you? Where's the accent from?
I was actually born in a town in America called Philadelphia. Hall & Oates, Todd Rundgren, very much an urban environment, but I moved to New York 10 years after I was born, and I've been in New York ever since. So I've always wondered about that New York accent. Do I have it? Do I not have it? It's nice to hear. I don't have it. But then again, living here all this time, I should have it. So go figure. Go figure.
David, you know what I want to do now? I want to go back into your past and talk about your dad. Now, your dad had a lot to do with the music industry. Fill me in on that.
Well, my father started working for a company called Decca Records in the 40s and 50s in America. They had many traditional acts: Brenda Lee, country and western star, Buddy Holly and the Comets. And it's funny. I don't know your family's situation, but growing up, I didn't want to have anything to do with what my father did, yet I learned more and more about it. One night in 1967, my father says to me, "I've got to go see this act. You want to come with me?" I didn't have anything better to do. I went. It was the Who. Pete Townsend, Roger Daltrey, John Entwistle, Keith Moon. I went. I loved it. My first thought on leaving the show was, this is what I want to do. So again, go figure. Go figure. It's funny. Mickey Dolenz comes from a show business family. He always says he went into the family business, and so have I. So, things happen, things change.
Well, I got to say, his dad was in the TV show The Count of Monte Cristo.
Yes.
And he did Circus Boy. So he's come up through the Hollywood ranks there, and he's just an amazing person.
Oh,
and they're going to go on tour as soon as this pandemic's over, and they've got a brand new CD called The Mike and Mickey Show. That's the one.
Here we go. That's it. I told you I brought props.
I got to tell you something.
A good PR man always has props.
I know now. That's what I want to say, but I got to tell you where I'm from, right? In 1967, in July, I turned 9 years old. Now, the Monkees have come on TV, black and white, in Australia in July, the month of my birthday. And they're the biggest thing out, because at that age, I couldn't understand the Beatles in 1964 when they came to Melbourne, because I was only 6 years old. So the Monkees are my generation. And I've been a Monkees fan since that day in 67 that I saw them on TV. And I bought their first EPs, Volume 1 and Volume 2, in Australia. And I'm 62 years old now, and still my favorite group of all time. Guess who it is? The Monkees.
Right. Well, you're not alone, and I like your choice.
Thank you. Now, David, I want to go back into you. I want to know what makes a great publicist like yourself.
That's a fantastic question. I think that you have to have experience, and it's one of those catch-22 things. How do you get the experience unless you grow up in an environment that you can learn from? I mean, as much as I may not have wanted to learn what my father did, he had me do certain jobs. I mean, he paid me for them, whether it was doing clippings, whether it was making calls, whether it was meeting people. And little by little, it was ingrained in my consciousness. So I think experience. I mean, you can't really buy experience. You have to luck into a situation. where you can really learn, and you have to want to learn too. I mean, I started doing this around 1970, so I've been doing it for quite a while. I meet new publicists, and they say to me, "Oh, I've been in business 2 years," and I think to myself, 2 years? What's 2 years? It's nothing. I've worked for other firms. I've worked for record companies. I started my company in 1984. Uh, we hit the ground running with a group called Run DMC.
Yep, that's huge.
I didn't know about them. I didn't know about that genre of music, but I learned quickly, and they were huge. They were huge in the 80s. Before that, I'd worked with ZZ Top. After Run DMC, we worked with Debbie Gibson,
I love her. She's great.
whose birthday was last Monday.
Happy birthday, Debbie.
I won't say which one, but it was her birthday. She was an absolutely phenomenal artist. I watched her at 16, 17, and 18 literally grab the world. She's great. So I think you have to have the interest in music as well, you know, in publicity. I mean, how the publicity always works. Publicity is not just sending out a press release, it's calling on the phone, whining and dining whomever, and all those things work to make a good publicist.
I got to say, I'm from a music background myself.
Right?
I've written 2,000 original songs.
Wow.
I got 74 albums on the internet, iTunes, Spotify, EPs. I've been doing it all my life. I love it. Then I got into interviewing, and it's only within the last 4 months that I've done 200 interviews, and that was yesterday. But why I'm mentioning that is, you obviously come across a lot of untapped talent.
Right.
Like, I'll give you an example. Myself personally, I found a band in Scotland where I take my hat off to them, and I reckon they're the next new Beatles, right?
Right.
And when you come across talent like yourself, obviously having the knack to be able to recognize that talent, whether it's raw or it's polished, isn't that a big ingredient where you know these people are great?
Yeah. Yeah, I like to think, and through the years, I've often thought it to be perhaps a tad too boastful, but I can hear a record and immediately project where it should go, how well it will do. And there's also the artist too. I mean, is the artist ready to work with a manager, to work with a publicist? You know, these days at the awards show, you always hear the artists thank their team. Now that team can just be one person, or could just be one person, but it's usually a manager, a record company, a publicist, social media person, and that team doesn't create the talent. That team brings the talent to universal recognition. There's a 99.9% failure rate. When Debbie Gibson was big, every parent that thought their child could sing called me. And 99.9% of those calls didn't work. And it's a hard thing. You know, it's funny, when I work with Debbie, I didn't have a family. I do have a family now. And one of the hardest things to do is to tell a mother or a father it's not there. And some of these parents literally, they'll give you $1 million to make it happen. But the money cannot buy the success. It's a tough thing. You know, it's a tough thing. I mean, I have a daughter, she's turning 30 in February. So I get it. I didn't get it back then, but I get it now. It was great practice back then.
But let me tell you, entering the 70s, that's like the golden age. This is before disco. This is before punk. You're actually thrown into like the biggest music explosion that's going to happen, because the Beatles are split up And there you go. All this new talent is exploding everywhere. So your timing cannot be better.
Right. You know, I should say something at this juncture that between the 70s and starting my own company, I worked for a very small, influential label in New York City called Z Records. One of the owners was born in France, Michel Esteban. And they had a lot of eclectic groups, Kid Creole and the Coconuts, James White and the Blacks, Christina, who unfortunately passed away this year, tremendous artist. She did a kind of a disco version of Peggy Lee's Is That All There Is? And that was a door to that whole new wave, no wave scene. Maybe they didn't sell a lot of records, which, you know, I mean, when you get right down to it, that's the bottom line. But I mean, I feel the music, you know, I want to be passionately involved with it. And a lot of the disco stuff, yes, I was passionately involved with, but a lot of it, you know, was kind of fluff too. The 80s, the Thompson Twins, Duran Duran. I mean, I like them, but it was a long time ago, you know. So it's been an interesting ride. I wouldn't have changed a thing, or I wouldn't change a thing. It was a heck of an education.
But to have that awareness and be there, like this is before Studio 54. This is before Blondie. This is before it's coming up in Los Angeles, the scene. This is like, you know, that's not coming back. For you to be there that time, that's like, to me, the golden age.
Right. It was a magical time. And honestly, I feel and I have felt that those times will not happen again. So I'm grateful, however it happened, to have been a part of that. You know, Andrew Lloyd Webber this morning said that live entertainment is almost at the point of no return. And I've been thinking about that all day, and that's sad. I don't know what the answer is, you know, but it's just sad. I miss going to the clubs. I still go to the clubs. I miss going to the restaurants. I miss going to the festivals. And it would be a pity if we lost that, you know. I mean, Andrew Lloyd Webber sort of knows what he's talking about. So for him to say something like that, all the news services picked it up, and it's, you know, it's heavy. It's heavy because our lives have changed and maybe changed forever, you know. Not to get too philosophical, but it's, I want to do all that stuff again, you know. I just turned 66 a month ago, and even though it's different than being 26, I still enjoy listening to music, going out, going to parties, going to the clubs, going to the restaurants, going to the festivals. And I would be really sad if I didn't get to do that again. And I'm sure you feel the same way.
Exactly, David. But you know what it is? You're basically on this new thing that's happening now with technology, where you're watching where the road's going, you're picking the right path, and you're going with the new. I recognize, even in my job, that I'm historically documenting everything, because I believe everything's being written now in the moment, 2020, because of the pandemic. I'm actually interviewing all the biggest people now. Because you got to understand, in 20 or 30 years, they're not going to go back to 1964 to know what's happening. For example, I interviewed Ray Ennis from the Swinging Blue Jeans, directing Liverpool. He's 80 years old. Now, for him to tell me his story, they're going to go straight to that story in 20 years' time. Because 220 is going to be closer to 240. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to go back.
It's funny you're saying this, because I have spoken to a number of writers in the last few months who basically said to me, my God, I'm getting to interview people that I thought I'd never get to. Because a lot of the performers, you know, they're sitting at home. You know, they're not going on tour. I mean, Mickey Dolenz in an interview recently said, I think this is the first time I've unpacked my suitcase in 20 years. And it's funny to hear it, but when you think about it, it's true. I mean, all these bands, I mean, live entertainment, I mean, the clubs in New York, uh, you know, I mean, they're not open. I mean, no one is really doing anything, and it's, it is what it is. But it's sad because I remember, and you remember what we used to be doing. So, I
Exactly.
mean, yeah,
But look at the future. What's going to happen now in the future? I'm actually excited about the future because we've got
right,
all this new stuff coming. Believe me, we're at the foothold of what's going on now. We're
right,
at the point,
right,
like in the 70s, we're
right.
going to something new. And that's what we're doing. Now, I've got to get back to your fantastic roster of artists. I mean, look, you got Mark Bago, you got Mickey Dolenz, you got
Right,
Gibson. I mean, you know, you're the cream of the crop.
right. I've been lucky, and it was not through planning. It was just through a lot of hard work. I mean, at the end of the day, if I was not competent, if I was not good, I wouldn't have been doing this with my own company, 37 years. But boy, am I tired. No, it's just a long time. It's a long time to be still engaged, still, hopefully on the cutting edge. I mean, I enjoy all of our clients. I mean, I have a different relationship with each of them. Mark Bago, I've known for 40 years. I mean, he's been a client for 35. You don't hear about that anymore. I mean, there's not a lot of loyalty in business in general. Whether you're a PR person, whether you're a record company, whether you're a manager, it's tough. It's tough out there. I mean, you're an artist, you have a manager, you're not happy, you're going to blame the manager. It's tough. It's tough. I mean, it's the political aspects are always in the back of my mind, but I did decide in 1983 if I was going to keep on doing what I'm doing, I wanted to work for myself. I haven't gotten a regular paycheck since 1984.
But you know what?
Long time, right?
You know what it is, David?
Yeah.
What you've done in your life, you can't beat it. There's no price on what you
Right.
did. You have total creative control. You
Right.
can't put a price on it.
Right. I mean, it's been a great ride. And as I said, I mean, I wouldn't change a thing. Wouldn't change a thing. It would have been nice to make some more money, but at the end of the day, I can sleep at night. So how many people can say that, right?
Right, exactly. But what's it like when you pick up the cover of Rolling Stone and you got DMC on it?
Just a fantastic feeling. I mean, they were the first hip hop group, urban group. I mean, the phrase hip hop wasn't even used back with Run DMC. I mean, that phrase, which now is a bad phrase, urban, I kind of liked. I mean, I kind of get why now it might not be the best phrase to use, but but to answer your question, it was thrilling. It was thrilling,
But also,
I was just going to say, to be at the video shoot with Aerosmith and Run DMC doing Walk This Way, unbelievable. Unbelievable. To be on the set with Debbie Gibson doing her $1 Million Electric Youth video, unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, with Debbie, we took the Concorde a number of times. I never thought I would take the Concorde, and that was amazing. I remember on one of those flights, I got up from my seat, I walked up to the front of the plane, I looked out the window, and I saw the curvature of the earth. That was amazing. Sort of like, yeah, like exactly like that. It was both scary and beautiful. So, I mean, I've had some great times. I'm not done yet.
well, let me tell you the earliest rap song, which one it is. It's Mickey Dolenz singing Going Down.
Right. Okay. Great track. Written. Well, actually, I'm thinking of another song, but he has told me about the genesis of that song. I mean, it's a great track. I mean, to
It's
see
written
the
by the
monkey.
four of them.
Yes, to see the Monkees in concert performing that, and Mickey performing that song, unbelievable. I mean, you know, he is an absolutely consummate performer. He's an entertainer.
I've heard from other people that he sings opera to warm up his voice.
Yes.
Singing rock in opera.
Right. He has an amazing voice. His voice has, I think, gotten better than it was in the 60s and 70s. Now, how is that possible? How is that possible?
He's just got it.
Yeah. Mickey is one of those people. I mean, before a show, he could be just sitting on a couch relaxing, but when that moment comes, he gives 200%. It's unbelievable, and every single time, believe me when I tell you, I've seen a lot of Mickey Dolenz performances. Phenomenal. You know, in clubs, in sheds, in stadium, unbelievable performer. And you know, and he's a fascinating individual. Fascinating. A true Renaissance man. And I say that having been around a lot of, you know, so-called marquee names. But I don't have to tell you, right?
You don't have to tell me, but let me explain to you. By telling me you see the passion. See, I see your passion for the business. Yeah. Now, that's the ingredient that counts. It's not like you're doing your job and you don't care.
Right.
You actually care. And you care more and beyond what's the norm. That's what makes you a great publicist.
Right. You know, again, I mean, it's experience, and you develop that experience. I mean, you're not really born. I guess you're born with the interest, and you have to nurture that interest and find a mentor who, I mean, in this case, was my father. I mean, it took me a long time to realize that, but I finally did, and have the passion. It's all about the passion. Remember that. You can use that line.
Don't worry. For what I'm doing, I got so much passion. I just started. It's like, for me, I'm on my own path, on my own journey. It's like everyone does it. And the amazing thing is, I've only appeared in the last 4 months. But I've been ready for this for when, like basically in the 70s.
Right. So you've been training for this your whole life.
Yep.
Yep.
I've been ready for it. And when you're ready for it and you know what you're doing and no one has to tell you, that's the great thing. It's like you went into it in the 70s, and whether you knew or you didn't, you figured it out pretty quickly. And once you figure it out, you play the game. Me, I got it down pat. I'm already on the super highway. Like there's no obstacle for me. Where do you go? I do not know anybody in the world, I'll just say, that's come from Australia, that's done 200 interviews in 4 months, has written 2,000 original songs. And when I tell them, other artists get intimidated because they don't know if I'm telling the truth. But I'm not, because I was ready for it. There's a documentary being made about me in England at the moment, right? I've already done the interview. We're going to take our time. We're going to do it. I've got a story to tell. It's like everybody has a story. I'm sure, like even in this video that we're doing now, you've got so many stories and you're not taking those stories with you. That's why it's always important to communicate and get it on video, because too many people today in 2020, they don't get to tell their stories.
Right, I agree. Who's the your favorite interview so far? Or I should say, who's been the favorite interview? Besides me, of course, right?
Exactly, but I've got to say, when I look back, I've got to say, Susie Quattro.
Ah, one of my favorites.
Mary Wilson from the Supremes.
Right.
Mark Bago.
Right.
John Lennon's sister, Julia Bard.
Right.
Paul McCartney's stepmother, Angie.
Right.
So you've got this list of people, Peter Asher, who was in Peter and Gordon.
Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah, I know Peter very well. Peter was Mickey had done kind of a smaller cabaret show did a lot of Broadway music as well as the Monkey hits. And I actually sat with Peter Asher, who I had never met before, and he totally captivated me throughout the evening. He would start a story. Well, when I was with Paul, and it took me a minute to realize he's talking about McCartney. He had better stories than I did, but they were fantastic. He's a gentleman, and we actually all went out after the show and talked some more. Fantastic.
He's one of the world's greatest music producers, but not only
Right.
that, when I spoke to him, I said, Peter, what was it like? Paul McCartney's living in your house upstairs,
Right.
and he writes the song yesterday. Then I
Right.
said, downstairs in the basement, he writes, I Want to Hold Your Hand with John. I mean, I can't even fathom that.
Right. I'll tell you a quick, funny Paul McCartney story. I'm a fan, but one of his albums I never listened to, Flaming Pie. And a friend of mine sent me the remastered, with more music and books and photos and recipes. But it's a phenomenal album. I've been listening to it now nonstop for 3 days. So I'm going to give him a plug. I'm not working for Paulie, but fantastic.
He's got another box. That must be the new box set he's got too.
Right.
He's got a bigger box set. But let me tell you this. One of my favorite Paul McCartney albums is Red Rose Speedway.
Ah, fantastic.
Now, to me,
Backseat of My Car. Backseat of My Car, I believe, is on that album, right?
But I like Big Red Barn. I like the opening track.
Yeah. I mean, he's a phenomenal writer. What can you say? I saw a clip. He was on one of the chat shows over here, and the host said, when you write a song, first question, he just basically sat down. Paul, when you write a song, where does it come from? It went on and on. And Paul just looked at him and he said, well, I'm a genius. And he is. He's a genius.
Exactly. But you know the story about Dustin Hoffman. They were having dinner and Dustin Hoffman said, can you sing a song?
Right.
Can you write a song on the spot?
Right.
And he did.
And then what was the song? Do we know?
I think it's Picasso's Last Stand. They were having a meal. I'm pretty sure it's that song.
Right. It's kind of like I was actually on a friend's boat Saturday, and Graham Nash's Just a Song Before I Go came on. And I remember him telling me someone at an airport said, I bet you can't write a song in 10 minutes. And that's the song he wrote. Fantastic song. Fantastic song.
Speaking about airports, the Monkeys were at an airport and they said over the PA, Mr. Bob Dobalina, with Mr. Bob Dobalina, and the Monkeys did the song, Mr. Bob Dobalina. That's the line in the song. It came from the airport.
Yep. I mean, I was actually with the four of them at a show over here many years ago. Davey was still with us, and Peter was still here, and it was funny. They kind of kept their distance, but at moments they had that camaraderie, which you only get, when you live and you work just constantly. And it's, it's what it is. It's called the music business. So it's, in many ways, it's the business of making the music, and you hear all these stories of artists getting ripped off. I mean, it's because they have not stayed on top of the business, but it's a hard job, I mean, I don't have to write the songs. I don't have to sing the songs. So my thinking is I'm ahead of the game because I know what I'm doing, and I think I can do it pretty proficiently. But writing a song, playing the instruments, producing, it's a tough gig. It's a tough gig.
I'm glad you said that, David. Do you know why?
Why?
Because you're a bit of a guitarist yourself.
I am.
And you wanted to try it as a career.
Right.
So tell me about that.
Well, growing up here in the States in the 70s, everyone listened to music. It was either Led Zeppelin, it was the Beatles, it was the Stones. And when I was going to college, I worked for the radio station. I was the music director. I was the program director. I was an announcer. And of course, we would try to put on the longer cuts so we could go outside and, do what kids do. And one of the things I did, just one of the things I'm going to tell you, was, I had a guitar and I enjoyed it. It was very freeing. But it's a very competitive market even back then. So, which is not to say I might not go back to it. I got rid of all my guitars. First thing I would have to do is buy a guitar. But it was a dream. You see, back then, everyone played guitar. And obviously only certain of us were going to make that next big step. So I will tell you a story, though. This fellow, Vic Castell, time traveler, in 1974, he and I went into a studio in New York with some fantastic session people and made this album. It just came out a month ago. The question is, why did it take so long? I mean, I was doing other stuff. He was doing other stuff. He, bought a house. He raised a family. He was an educator for a time. But the music that we recorded back in the mid 70s, it's kind of come back into vogue again, like disco will, like dance will. And the reception has been pretty good. I mean, people are, unfortunately, are not going through the roof for it. But when they listen to it, the people that are passionate about music love it. So, I mean, we're doing all sorts of stuff here. I'm going to give him a little plug here. I actually picked out this cover.
And where can I get it from, David? Can you tell them where they can buy it?
You can buy it on all the platforms: iTunes, Apple, Spotify. The music, I'm not going to say dated, but I mean, it was not recorded yesterday, or this year or last year. But it represents, I mean, they're pop songs, they're rock songs. He's a singer-songwriter, much in the, like a Jackson Browne or Fairport Convention, Richard Thompson. And it was a project out of love, out of passion. So I'm going to hold it up one more time, Plastic.
Please, that's fantastic. Time Traveler.
Say again? I'm sorry.
Time Traveler, the album.
Yeah, right. Time Traveler, correct. I also want to hype one more project we're doing there.
Please do.
I was very much in the 80s into fusion jazz, fusion jazz. Larry Coryell, Weather Report, Chick Corea, a calmer type of music, perhaps, than disco. But this group, called Project Grand Slam, has kind of reinvigorated that genre. In New York, unfortunately, we don't have that many jazz clubs like we did in the 80s. I mean, the 80s, you could go out for a week and visit all the jazz clubs in the city. Again, a passion project. I'm involved because I feel the music, the genre I loved, and I want to help him. I want to help bring it back. Now, 2 years ago, 2018, they had another album out. It was #1 on the charts in America. They've opened for Edgar Winter, for Blues Traveler, for Boney James. Fantastic group. Robert Miller is the leader, and it's called Robert Miller's Project Grand Slam. So I'm going to send you all this.
Please. Especially that Mickey one live. I haven't got that one.
You haven't got it? Okay. Now, you know what Mickey is doing right now. Besides, dealing with the pandemic, he is recording a new album for this label in England, which has released the live stuff, 7A, out of the UK. The name of the album is called Dolenz Sings Nesmith. Mickey is going to explore the Mike Nesmith catalog of music.
Unbelievable. But guess what else he did?
What?
Guess what else he did?
What?
Joey Mullen from Badfinger. Guess who did some backups?
Yes.
Mickey Dolenz.
Yes.
and the album is coming up. And guess what? I'm interviewing Joey.
Really?
Yeah.
Please send him Mickey's love and my love. You know, I went out on this 50 years ago tour with Christopher Cross, Todd Rundgren, Mickey, Jason Sheff from Chicago, the bassist, and Joey. And Joey, I always loved Badfinger, loved them to death, but I got to, you know, see him every night, and delightful fella. So
I'll pass on my love from both of you straight away. Yes. No problem.
Yeah. He's a phenomenal guy, just terrific. You know, when he did the Badfinger numbers in the show, in addition to all the Beatles songs, I mean, it was just kind of a nice bookend to everything else. This was the tour to celebrate the White Album's 50th anniversary. Phenomenal tour, and that was last year too. So, I mean, you know, all these artists, they want to get back on the road, you know. I think Joey just finished this album right before the pandemic. So he got in right under the gun.
Well, I just interviewed the Hudson brothers, Mark, who produced the album.
Right.
And I just did an interview with Brett. I love those guys.
Really? Oh, yeah. The Hudson brothers, right? I mean,
and they had their own TV show.
Yeah.
True rock and rollers.
Yeah, Mark Hudson, phenomenal producer, right? Harry Nilsson, Aerosmith, Ringo, I mean, phenomenal producer. I think he actually lives in New York. I used to see him out and about, you know. I mean, I haven't seen anyone since February. I'm coming into my office 4 days a week. There are other companies who I won't mention, but I mean, they're not going back till January. It's you know, the city has changed. New York City, very quiet, you know. Sad. It's sad. But we push on.
I really like too, that I interviewed.
Who?
One of my heroes, Ron Dante.
Oh, yeah. Archie's.
I love him. And not only that, he produced the records for Barry Manilow. How big is that?
Yeah. You know, someone told me, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm going to repeat it, that he actually auditioned for one of the Monkees.
He did.
I mean, I don't know if it's true.
No, I think it's true. I think he told me.
Yeah. I read it. Excuse me. I read it on social media, so, you know, you never really know. But
no, he told me that. I'm sure he told me. He said, Kirshner told him, we got the show going if you want to go and audition for it.
Wow. You know, Mark Bigo, he probably didn't mention it, but he always wanted to do a book on Don Kirshner. Don Kirshner lived, you know, right near New York in New Jersey. Mark was in New York at that time, and they just couldn't, you know, get it together.
And you heard the rumor that what's his name auditioned as well. That came out from nowhere. Manson, the joke.
You know, Mickey claims that is just a rumor.
That's a rumor.
Yeah. You know, I'll tell you another funny thing, and it just came. I was visiting some friends this weekend, but you know, Mike Nesmith's mother invented whiteout, which in the 70s and 80s, you know, was a big deal. You know, if you typed, you know, you needed whiteout. And somehow Mickey and myself and someone, we were talking about that. And Mickey says to me, he says, you know, I do remember his mother coming by with this stuff saying, you know, I'm going to invent this. I'm going to, you know, I mean, who knew, right? I mean, it was a crazy idea. You know, a white paste you know, you put on paper to kind of cover up a mistake. I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, but you know what's good? They got rid of it before the computers came in.
Yes, yeah.
Timing was perfect.
Yeah. Well, you know, every idea has its time. You know, another thing we talked about this weekend is that, you know, who's really coming out ahead in this pandemic? The makers of plexiglass. Over here in New York, you see plexiglass in restaurants. in barbershops, in stores. Where does all that plexiglass come from? That's an investigative idea for some journalist. I mean, who makes plexiglass? You know, it's kind of like glass, but it's flexible. Plexiglass. Anyway, I don't want to get off track here.
You know what? Can I ask you?
But this album is fantastic. I'm captivated. I put it on Tuesday. I'm not taking it off. I mean, I guess yesterday was Tuesday, but it's phenomenal. Anyway, go ahead.
I got to tell you, Please Please Me, my favorite Beatles album, the first one.
Right.
You just got to love it for being raw. You know the album I'm talking about. It's just the greatest.
Right. I mean, is it Meet the Beatles? Meet the Beatles.
No, right? No. Well, we call it Please Please Me because here in Australia, we got all the British catalogue. That's why. Right. But it's known as Please Please Me.
Okay.
If you can get a copy of that, buy it on the net. That's the one to listen to because it's a different song listing. So get Please Please Me, David. Okay. You're going to love it. Right. You won't take it off.
You know, I must ask you, you know, the Monkees, I guess Mickey, Mike, and Peter were in Australia, right? 2 years ago.
Yeah, but you know what happened? Guess what?
You didn't see them.
The first time I went to both concerts, and I actually do a show with Rich Dart, the drummer.
Right.
A show together called Plastic EP Robin. That was Peter's PR.
Right.
Personal assistant.
Right.
And also Rich Dart. So the three of us. That was my 200 show yesterday.
Wow.
But let me tell you, I went to see Peter and Mickey when they came here to Melbourne. Then 2 years later, it was Mickey and Mike.
Right.
Right. And what happens is I had a 1967 poster that I bought it when I was 8, 9 years old. Took me 38 years to get it signed by all four.
Right. Wow.
That's a long time. 38 years to be a...
But you did it. You got it.
I got it.
Yeah. Wow.
Davey was the first to sign. When he came here in the 80s, he was doing a small convention here in Melbourne Town Hall in Melbourne.
Right. I mean, I was almost going to come to those shows in Australia with Mike and Mickey, and at the last moment, it didn't all work out. You know, it was a big band, a lot of people, a lot of, you know, girlfriends and which is fine, but it was a big production. And, you know, I mean, the more money you spend on that, the less money you make at the end of the day. But, you know, Mike and Mickey were supposed to have toured in April, and this CD was going to come out at the start of the tour. Obviously, that's been pushed back, and they have new dates in America in March and April of 2021. Although, you know, what's going to happen is anyone's guess.
No, they'll go out there. But let me say now also, with Mark Bago, I love his books.
Right.
His books are amazing. Even did a cookbook.
Yep.
The forward was done by Mary Wilson.
Right.
And as he's working on a book now, an amazing book.
With Frida Payne.
That's the one.
Band of Gold. I've met Frida. She's phenomenal. And I know you want to interview her.
I do.
And I think Mark is gonna set that in motion. If he doesn't, I will. Do you have a copy of the cookbook? Because you should have that. I mean, we'll exchange information, and we'll send you a nice little gift package.
It's amazing. But as I said, I got to get that Monkees live CD.
Oh yeah. In fact, we should both come down and meet you in person, right?
Yeah, of course. If you come to Australia, I'm here. And you know what, David? I'll take it to the wineries 1 hour out of Melbourne called the Yarra Valley. You will love it. It's just beautiful.
Okay. I know Mickey liked that area because every time we talked about Australia, he mentioned 2 areas, one of which is the one you just mentioned. So
Yarra Valley is the greatest.
Yeah.
And 1 hour out of Melbourne, you got to understand something now in Melbourne. People are thriving to be entertained. It's all virtual. It's like now we need entertainment more on the net now in Australia than ever before because we're cooped in our houses from 8 p.m. till 5 in the morning. And I give this plea, and I speak to you.
Well, you know, you're providing the content. You know, people have asked me, how's business? Well, actually, business is pretty good because I think the media is tired of writing the same pandemic story over and over. They want to know what Mickey Dolenz is doing at home. What is Mark Bigo doing at home? What is what took Vic Castel all these years to release this music? So in a way, the PR people, the good PR people are busier than ever before, and I must admit, it's not like I feel like I have a gun at my back, but I hope things will get better,
I was just going to say this, if I may, David. It's very important. Now, one of the greatest Beatles historian is a gentleman called Ivor Davis, right? And I want to tell you his story. Right. He was the first correspondent. He was in America for the Beatles' first tour in 1964, and his assignment was to go with the Beatles for 5 weeks, be with them in their suitcases, basically, and report everything to a British newspaper that had 4 million subscribers. Every day they were selling 4 million papers. And his job was to write stories about the Beatles' first tour in America, Ivor Davis. And he's got a book out.
Yeah, I know the name. I've never met him, but I think I read it. I mean, it came out a while back, right? I mean...
Yeah, he's got it out. But the thing is, what I need to say is he was there in the eye of the tiger, and he was ghostwriting an article for George Harrison. And while they're on tour, George said to him, while you're writing this rubbish, I'll give you real stories and write them from me. I'll tell them you do it.
Right.
But my point is, later down the track, the first meeting between the Beatles and Elvis was in the US, right? Mulholland Drive down there somewhere. Right. And he was invited by Mel Evans to go. So he was the fly on the wall. So I interviewed him about this in July, and I did a 33-minute interview in depth. Right. And I said, this is the interview of 2020. Because I said, I do not know anybody that's come out to tell us exactly what happened when the Beatles met Elvis. And he went into great detail. Right. Now, my point is, Australian TV, so I did the interview in July. Australian TV came out now, the commercial networks. Guess what? They do the same interview and they give the guy 3 minutes.
Right, wow.
So what I'm trying to say is, who's on the right track? The one that spends the time with him and does an in-depth interview, or the television station that gives you 3 minutes, gives you basically, what do they give you? You know what I mean? This is
what I know.
Is on the net.
Because you're passionate about this.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I've worked for TV, for corporate TV, and I mean, everything is, I mean, there's 12 producers, there's editors, there's an executive producer. I mean, it's probably just you and 1 or 2 other fellows, right? I mean, that's,
it's actually 2 people. Yeah. It's myself, and I've got someone that helps me, and basically I've got my finger on the pulse of what's now. And what happens is I scour the net nearly 24 hours a day. And when I see something that's going to interest the world that no one has seen, you'll be amazed. Like, I'll give you an example. This is the best example I can give you, David.
Okay.
Here is a book, right? One Dream Ago. Right. Now, when you look at it, you wouldn't know what it is.
Right.
But let me tell you what it is. The author, right, Michael X. Savas, with his daughter, Olivia Savas Cooper, they wrote this book 10 years ago. Guess who did the front cover?
Wow.
Have a guess who did it?
You.
No, Klaus Vormann, the guy who did Revolver.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Revolver. Yep.
Did the anthology series. So there's your first bit. Now,
have you interviewed Klaus?
No.
Very nice guy. I mean, you should. I mean, just a bundle of information. I mean, we talked about being at the right place at the right time. He's one of those guys.
But let me tell you, guess who did the foreword to the book? May Pang.
Wow.
So, and he's got photographs. Yeah. He's got photographs here that you've never seen before. So here's a world-class book that I know about. Now you know about it.
Right.
And the great thing is, right?
I love the cover. What is that on the cover?
Kangaroo with the Beatles in the pouch.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
And on the medallion, do you see the medallion? There's a medallion.
Is it Harrison?
No. That's him and his daughter. They put
okay. See, because he's got the George Harrison beard from the 70s.
Look at the Beatles in the pouch.
Oh, right. Wow. That could have been the cover.
Class Foreman did that.
Yeah.
So what I did is I bring it to the world.
Right.
And I tell Beatle people that write great books, have you seen this? And they go, no. Well, I said, I'm here to bring it to you and tell you about it because I know about it. How great is that? And the fact that the book's Australian and I'm Australian is even greater.
Right. I love it. Kangaroo. I love it.
Look at that. Class Foreman. You'd never know it if you saw it on the ground who did it.
Right. You should post that on social media. You should just post the cover and see the responses you get, right?
You know, David, I got this mutual respect and love for you. You know why? Because we're thinking the same way. We're interacting on the same wavelength. And what I'm trying to say is, not only do you get it, you're ahead of the game because you know what you're doing. Right. And what the great thing is, no matter when a challenge comes in front of you, you work it out.
Yeah. We can work it out, right? Be a good song title, right?
And I'll tell you what, Paul McCartney or someone at Capitol Records, I've been waiting, should send us a box set of Beatles CDs because who else is going to publicize the Beatles? Right. Such a great interview like this. You've done Flaming Pie for Paul 2 times.
You know, I lived out east, in Long Island, and like 7 blocks away, McCartney has a house, and I'm waiting. I'm going to just be in some store. I'm going to be getting a thing of coffee, and I'm going to look up. And it hasn't happened yet, but it would be nice. I mean, he has written a few good songs.
Of course, but you know what? You get to interact with Mickey Dolenz,
right?
Debbie Gibson, Mark Bigo.
I've been very lucky. But I will say I've worked hard.
Of course.
To get to that point. I mean, it didn't just drop in my lap. I mean, you persevere. There's a great saying. It's like success is when you're prepared, so you can deal with the success. And I've been preparing my whole life.
Thank you. So, didn't I just say that to you earlier? That I was ready for this?
Yeah. Well, you're right. You're right.
Success has come to me late at life, and it only came the last 4 months. And I can't tell you how happy I am, how passionate I am. And I've even got a crazy music show going on the internet. It's called Plastic EP's Brain Teasers. We filmed 4 episodes, 2 hours in a row. 4 episodes. It's like something you've never seen on the net. It's 4 hours of crazy.
Well, you know what? I'm going to take a look at it. I mean, I'm enjoying this tremendously. I'm not a big interview guy, even though I know what to do and what not to do. And I tell clients, some clients I don't have to tell, like Mark Beagle, like Mickey Dolenz, but other clients, you have to give a little.
Yeah, of course. You got to nurture them, help them out a bit.
Yes.
I had one guy come on my show and he goes, "Oh, I've been nervous for 1 week coming on your show." And you know what I told him? I'm only human. Don't worry about it.
Right. Well, over here in America, there's a saying that if you get up and you speak, or you have to speak in front of people, you pretend they're all naked. I don't know if that works. I've never done it, but it's funny. So, it's not a natural thing, I think, to be interviewed or to talk to crowds, to perform. I mean, you gotta do it.
Well, I got to tell you, David, if I have to critique this interview and I had to critique it out of 10, I'll give it a 20.
Oh, my God. You're too kind.
How great it is. No, yeah. But I can't tell you how great it is when you've got someone who actually engages in an interview. No. And I like the ones that come in and take over. I love that.
Right.
I had someone from the minute I started
It's been fantastic. I'm always curious about the reactions, once it's out there in the ethos. But it was great. I mean, we talked about everything. I told you, I had my props. I brought my props.
What's the book? What's the book, David?
Well, the book, and I trust Mark, but this was Mark's book from February of this year on Elton John, Rocket Man. It was after the movie, but it still did very well. And for me, look what they did in the beginning. They made the inside was all pink. I like to think they did that for Elton, but it's it's a very nice book. We will send one of these to you as well.
You're so kind. What else have you got there to show me? Now I'm fascinated. What is it you haven't shown me?
We had the, I mean, you've seen this, and obviously it's the Monkees.
My favorite.
What? Yes, fantastic. East Side Sessions, Jazz Fusion. We have the Vic Castell, Time Traveler. And we have this this fantastic Debbie Gibson limited edition, Lost in Your Eyes. I mean,
I got to ask you, David, if you could get Mickey to sign the CD to Plastic EP and get Debbie to sign it to Plastic EP, it'd be pride and place in my home. I can't tell you.
Would you like to interview Debbie? Would you like to have
I'd love to interview Debbie.
Okay. All right.
I'd love to interview anybody you suggest.
Okay. I said briefly it was her birthday last Monday. And
happy birthday, Debbie.
Okay, happy birthday, Debbie. And her team, we talked about that before, put together a video of, just friends and associates and people she's worked with in the past and people, birthday video. And it was just very, very charming, I met Debbie when she was 15. She's a lot older now. I mean, you can do the math, but I've known her, most of my life. Amazing, right?
Gotta say, David Salidor, you are an amazing man. You are a great PR man. All I can say is Plastic EP salutes you, and I can't thank you enough for this great interview. And believe me, this is going to be running around the net 24 hours a day.
I can't wait to see it.
And in generations to come, they'll be knowing you and myself, and they'll be going, gee, what a fantastic, one of the best PR men out there. I can't thank you enough.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, David.
All right. Cheers.